pregnant pause. We are, I think, live. Okay, good evening, everybody. This is Patrick Milliken from the Poison Pen Bookstore, and we're here with another virtual event. And tonight we're really delighted to have two friends of ours joining us. Matt Coyle has a brand new book out, The Last Redemption, and Maegan Beaumont has a brand new book, The Darkwater Girls, the first in a brand new series. And Barbara and I are both going to be sitting in on this one. So I can't say over to you, Barbara, but I will. You can do the program, and I'll be lurking in the background. But everybody watching, if you have questions throughout the hour for Maegan or Matt, just go ahead and type them in, and I'll do my best to monitor the comments in the chat fields. And I'll be happy to ask any of your questions. So over to you for now, Barbara.
Right, just as I'm taking a drink. Perfect. Sorry, I got a frog in my throat. Well, we have two authors who spent lots of time with us, and we're delighted to see them again. Maegan Beaumont, who lives in the West Valley in Phoenix, and Matt, who lives, do you live in San Diego, per se? Right, so in California, which is, sort of like suburban Phoenix, or we're like suburban San Diego, whichever way you want to look at it. Anyway, we had hoped to do this event live, and then it just right at the moment with Omicron coming back and all, it seems safer to do it this way. But Matt has very kindly signed the hardcover of his book for us, which we really appreciate. So Maegan, this is fun. This is a new series start for you.
Yes.
So, and you're doing a small town, you're in Michigan, and you have a heroine with an interesting background, the military police. So did you, do you have any personal experience with that, or did it just seem like a really good idea to have her like that?
It just seemed like a good idea. No personal experience with the military. My son is in the Army, but no personal experience with the military. It just seemed like a lot of kids who are displaced and in foster care, and my main character, Georgia, grew up in foster care. They seem to gravitate toward the military because they're looking for a place to go, looking for a place to belong. And so I really felt strongly that that would be something that Georgia would do, because she did have family on, not a family, but a maid family on the island. And when she was separated from them, she felt lost, and I felt like the military would be someplace where she would go and feel like she belonged.
Well, it does provide structure, and it also teaches you some skills.
Yes.
So I think you're right that it would be sort of a natural haven for somebody who is unsettled and grasping for that. So we'll come back to her. Matt, catch us up on Rick Cahill, because poor guy, he just goes from bad to worse. And in this book, he's got some even more serious problems. You injured him in the last book, but now you've given him an even deeper set of physical challenges.
Yeah, I understand. Just for the audience, that there's a bit of an echo, perhaps. I hope it's not too bad. Yeah, Rick's had as you mentioned, he's had a very, very physical life. We'll say that. When I started writing him 1,000 years ago, I had I had two rules. One I broke early, but the second one I've kept intact, and is that everything matters. Every physical trauma he suffers has significant, there's reverberations. The same thing with the emotional scars he has, which has been explored throughout the series. This one, I figured all the physicality caught up to him, and it kind of makes sense. I mean, he's had he boxed, Golden Gloves as a teenager. He played football, Pop Warner, high school, college. That's probably like 8 to 10 years of football. Then had many concussions as a private investigator. It only made sense that he would be diagnosed at least with CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, which I can never say very well. So I felt that to be true to the series, to be true to that one rule that meant something to me, that I would put him in this situation. The irony, this is all on the first page, so there's no spoilers. The irony is he's in one of the better places he's ever been. He's going to be a father. He just found out he's going to be a father. And then a week later, he's diagnosed. So it's a bit of a roller coaster ride for Rick. It always has been. And this is one that's, going to be hard for him to be able to battle out of.
Indeed, it will be. And there's some reverberations from all that that we'll come back and explore. But let me switch back over to Maegan for a minute. The foster care system is, it's a real roulette game for the people caught up in it, isn't it? Sometimes
It
people
is.
get lucky. And
It
in
is.
this case, Georgia thought she was, right? Because there's a wealthy family. Do you name the island, Maegan? I can't remember.
The island is named Angel Bay.
Okay. And so there's one family, as there often is in a small town, that seems to have more money, more influence, you know, bigger house and the whole bit. And this family, apparently, while it has a kind of a golden boy son of its own, they really like to foster children. So there have
Yes.
been quite a few, right?
Yes. Yes. On Angel Bay, the backstory is that the island was founded by a family who started an orphanage on the island in the 70s, when the state of Michigan, as they did, figured out that it's better for children to be with families. They closed down the orphanage, and as a result, 3 out of 5 homes on the island have foster care licenses. The family, the McNamara's, they are a very wealthy, very part of the elite of the island, and they do foster.
So,
Yeah.
you know, when you have a small community like that, the gulf between the elite and the regular people is so much more visible. I mean, I read the Wall Street Journal Mansion section on Friday, just, you know, for entertainment value. And I can hardly believe the price of the houses and the way some people live,
Yes.
the entitlements that they put into it. And I can see why it really would feed resentment that, you know, some people have so much money and so much affluence and luxury. So do you feel like your setting magnifies that?
I hope it does. I hope that, I created, a place, where it's really shown. I really hope that I drew the line between the haves and the have-nots on my island. Because that's important for, because these kids grow up in these foster homes, and they're surrounded by, these people who have everything and they have nothing, and they are at their mercy. And, it creates a lot of resentment. It can create a lot of anger and a lot of desperate feelings, I think, that I really hope that I was able to convey in the book.
It would be particularly hard if you'd been adopted by this family and then got booted out.
Yes.
I mean,
Absolutely.
because there you would be as part of this, sphere of affluence and so forth, and then suddenly cast out into the wilderness. But, and we'll go back to Matt here in a minute, but you bring Georgia back, having been cast out, having gone off into the military. This is all at the beginning. So this is set up. Why is it that she comes back to this island?
She comes back basically because after she leaves the military, I believe I have her out of the military for almost a year before she goes back. And she is adrift. She is alone. She doesn't have any family. The military anchored her and grounded her in a way that, her maid family on the island did. And without them, without the military, she found herself in a place where she was alone. And she's not somebody who's made to be alone. She's a protector. She needs to protect people. So, and especially the people that she loves. So she goes home under the premise of being the sole heir of one of the founding family of the island. It's explained in the book very early that she was abandoned at birth. She was found at a hospital. And the nurse who was filling out her birth certificate made an error. And instead of writing in the county's name, which is Fell County, the founding family's name, she put it in her surname. So she became Georgia Fell. So one of the, they call her the fake Fell. So she goes back because the family is gone, and she's been made their heir from an error that was made in the hospital when she was born.
So she goes back not with affluence of her own, which I think
No.
is a good starting point. So
Yeah.
anyway, back over to Rick. Let's talk about family because you've said that he's tell us about Leah, his fiance, and what's going on there. That's all part of what makes this book kick off anyway.
Yeah, Leah, he met in Lost Tomorrows, which was 2 books before this, I think, if I got it right. She was a sister of his former training officer up in Santa Barbara when he was a cop. And her sister had been killed in a hit and run car accident. And she hired Rick way back when, the 2 books ago, to investigate, and they ended up developing a relationship. And Rick's about 42, I think, and she's a year younger. And she'd been married before and had a couple miscarriages. She was never able to have a child. Rick's wife was murdered back when he was his mid-20s, and he thought he'd never be a father. And now there's this whole new world opening up to him. And aside from the CTE, which he hasn't told Leah about yet because they just found out they're going to be parents. There's something they both never thought was going to happen. They're going to have a miracle child, and he doesn't want to put a damper on it. But the other thing is that he's in this committed relationship. So for him, and he's only been responsible to one being, and that's been his dog Midnight. And he's done dangerous things. He's been been open to do that, and now he feels, I can't do that anymore. It's not fair. I have responsibilities. I'm with a woman I love. Plus, I'm going to be a father. I can't still do these things that I used to do. So he's working. He's doing just background checks now. Fortunately for him, he's working for freelancing for some major corporations, so he's making a decent living, ironically. But he misses being out in the field, being taking on evil face on, head on, and trying to help people, find the truth they need. So he feels like he's working with a parking brake on, but he feels like, well, this is what I have to do. This is what you do when you're in a committed relationship. He hasn't really hasn't felt like a member of a family since he was maybe 8 or 10. His father became an alcoholic because of something that happened on the police force where he worked. His mother basically disowned him when she disowned his father. So this is all a whole new thing. And the story of the book is his sometime partner, Moira McFarland, who's a widow and has one child, and he gets into trouble, and she asks Rick for help. And so he's seeing Moira, who's generally when they work together, she's the steadfast one. She's the one that's locked down, and he's kind of the wild child. And they kind of have to flip the script on that. And it gives him a sense of what, he's obviously understands family, but a sense of how important family is, and what it means to Moira, and what it'll mean to him. And can he accept these challenges anymore when he's responsible for other people?
Well, you point out he's in a committed relationship, but you really up the stakes when he's about to become a parent.
Yeah.
And I think that is a game changer in virtually every series that, as it's moved along. Certainly, Harry Bosch Michael talked a lot about what happened to Harry when, Harry discovered he had a child, but of course, Michael had a child then too. And so he knew.
Right.
It comes up, interestingly, Matt, it comes up more often in series where women are the detectives. And then there's a lot of angst and criticism about whether they can really, go out there and not risk the child, but risk themselves. And then by that, risking the child, what your responsibility is. So you've got Matt, Rick, he's got physical challenges, which in theory should keep him from taking risks, but now he's going to be a father, which you would think so too. So did you decide to double handicap him just to sort of up the stakes?
Yeah, I usually handicap him. I usually give him one handicap. I decided to, double it up on this one. I just thought it was a natural progression for him. That when I started writing Rick 20 years ago, it took me 10 years to get published. I don't think things out, as you may know. I know Patrick probably knows that. But I never intended for him to have a serious disease that would possibly shorten his lifespan. I never intended him to be fully committed to a relationship, probably on the page, maybe in his past, obviously. So things progress as they progress. And once he started to get on, in Lost Tomorrows, when Leah hired him, that's all I really needed her for in that book. And then I saw they had a relationship, and so that grew, and it's kind of an organic process when I write. And I figured, well, this is kind of what happens. Maybe there are women that have had miscarriages, thought they never get pregnant, and have had children, and certainly in their early 40s. And like I said earlier, Rick had to be diagnosed with this CTE, just the physical life he's led. There's probably a lot of people walking around that have played sports for many years, played football, what have you, soccer even maybe, with all the head trauma, with heading the ball, people don't talk about, that maybe have this disease. But I didn't consciously think that, I wanted to raise the stakes in terms of personal issues for Rick, but he kind of also.
He didn't do any skateboarding by any chance, did he?
That's one thing he didn't do.
Patrick had an unfortunate head trauma experience of his very own with the skateboard, and it really had a lot of effect on you.
It scrambled me. Yeah, it's
right. I remember that.
Concussion, pretty serious business when you're an adult,
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you talk about the research for CTE and sort of what it all entails? We're hearing more and more about it too. Talk about it a little bit.
Sure. Yeah. Ironically, I wasn't thinking about CTE when I started researching. I was researching DNA. I'm sorry, I got a little ahead of myself. I did research CTE. I was thinking of the other side of the plot of the story. I just did. Like everybody else, any sports fan, we became aware of it maybe 8 to 10 years ago with football. And Junior Seau, a San Diego icon, committed suicide by shooting himself in the chest so his brain could be examined. And of course, he had CTE. Dave Durson for the Bears did the same thing years before. So I researched. I talked to Doug Lyle a little bit. Of course, everybody knows Doug. And dove into on Google searches and such, and reading papers and things. And as far as I know, every football player that ever opened up and looked for it has had it, and that any position. And of course, Rick, he didn't play professional football, but he played a lot of football, and he's had a lot of concussions. And it's not just concussions either that brings this on. It's head trauma, period. You don't have to have a concussion, but boxers, goodness knows what when they ever look inside a boxer's head, or brain rather. So I went as deep as I had to. I'm not a huge research fan. I know a lot of writers love it. That's almost the reason they like to write. But I do get more than I need, like I think everybody who researches does. And then you just try to boil it down and find a couple little things that little points that may give you some credibility.
There was that recent case. Maybe you already mentioned the guy's name, but the one who apparently killed a few people. It induced some sort of psychotic episode. I don't think it was CTE exactly, but it was related to all those concussions he had. Do you know the case I'm talking about?
I don't specifically remember that, but I do know.
Aaron Hernandez.
Who?
Yeah,
Aaron Hernandez.
Yes, that's right.
Hernandez, and I'm sure. I don't know if they did an autopsy on him, but I'm sure he had it. It does make you. It can make you violent, and generally to your loved ones, amongst others.
Nice.
The people you love, you're close to them, and just the friction, and
yeah, absolutely.
It's a very uplifting future Rick has. Can't wait to write about it.
Nice.
Well, it crosses my mind that you're going to write your way out of Rick Cahill's life, because Rick's life is not, at some point, if he really has all this, he's not going to be able to continue as an investigator with any great success.
I don't know if he has a lot of great success right now, but I'm writing my way along the path.
Got it. Right. So Maegan, you're back at the beginning of the path. And so we brought Georgia back to Michigan. She's got money, but she had a real trauma, which is she was very much in love with the golden boy child, the McNamara son. And then it appeared that he got caught up in a different relationship and was with a girl who was pregnant. And so part of the problem of her going back there is she's going to meet up with them. Babies are featuring in both your books. Is that why it brought you together?
Maegan and I have always been simpatico.
Matt and
Well,
I are good friends. We get along well.
but it's
know what
interesting
we're
that
doing.
both of you have that challenge, you know. I mean, in your
Yes.
case, the baby not only was born, but is older by now. And in your case, the baby hasn't yet been born, but we have to think about children. So I don't know that we can say a whole lot about what happens in your book, Maegan, without spoilers. We've talked about the setup. Is there anything
Yeah.
else you'd like to say about the plot that won't be too much of a giveaway?
I don't think so. Speaking along the lines of children, I personally enjoy writing kids. I like writing kids. Savannah, the daughter, Lincoln's daughter in the book, she was fun to write. Kids tend to tell the truth, and they tend to see things that adults don't see, and they tend to see them in a way that, you know, we're unable to see them. So Savannah was my truth teller in the book. Georgia has complicated feelings about Savannah because she is the product of this relationship. But she likes her, and she wants her to love her father. And so their relationship is complicated, but I think it's also very real. And I enjoyed writing that, especially.
I did too. I thought I really like regional mysteries. I love mysteries that are set in a, you know, not all like Manhattan or Los Angeles or whatever. I really like books that take you to different places. And there was speaking of that mentioned section of the journal, which is what made me think of it, they did a whole feature a couple of weeks ago about upper Michigan. And this enclave of exceedingly wealthy homes that, you know, has cropped up on, I think it's not, maybe it's an island. I think it's a peninsula, but maybe it's an island and a peninsula.
Yeah.
But anyway, you know, with the inevitable result, as we have seen in places like Aspen and Santa Fe and all, that the people who live there begin to get shut out of any affordable housing or lifestyle because all this big money comes in.
Yes.
And, you know, it changes the shape of the community. And of course, COVID has accelerated people moving to more remote locations, bringing, in some cases, lots of money with them from Manhattan or Los Angeles or something, and really changing the community. So I think it's an interesting book, and you've got a community that could be on the brink of some significant changes.
Absolutely.
For her.
Absolutely.
And there is a murder. We're not going to tell you about the murder, but there is a murder. It is a mystery, a murder mystery.
Yes.
Yep. And there's a body. So Matt, what would you like to talk to Maegan about? I've hogged the whole thing, but you must have prepared slightly. So what would you like to say?
Well, first of all, I have bookshelf envy for both of you. Megan's got huge bookshelves, and you looks like yours is quite wide as well.
This isn't even half of it, Matt.
Yeah. Is that what you're right?
Yes. It is.
I want to know how many books a year you're writing now, and in writing something different, because Maegan writes in another genre, or used to, I think under a different name. Is that right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And I still write as under that genre.
So how many books a year are you writing?
This year I've written 3.
Okay, well, it's a slow year for you. This
Slow year for me.
It's
2018 I wrote 11. 2018 I wrote 11. 2019 I wrote 5. Last year I wrote, slow year, I wrote 3, and I wrote 3 this year. Yeah.
You're getting
Do
older.
you feel inadequate, Matt?
Yes, in a lot of ways, but thank you.
I'm slowing
That
down.
one out, yeah. I'm sure there's a lot of writers watching as well that feel the same way. I mean, that's, I know that in romance that you do have to, you know, write more than a book or 2 a year, but 11 is kind of crazy.
Yeah, that was an insane year. That was the year I decided I was going to build a backlist. And when I say 11 books, they were full-length books.
Now,
My
is
books,
it
my
public
romances
knowledge?
tend to be between 80 and 90,000.
Is it public knowledge what some of your other names are, or do you?
Yeah, I can tell you. It's if you look on my Amazon author page, it tells you right there.
Okay.
So my evil twin's name is Megan Ward.
Okay.
So
Megan Ward, and I write hot contemporary romance.
hot. So every month is NaNoWriMo for you.
Yes. Yes.
And you're raising a family. I know your kids are getting older, but
Mhm.
and you have chickens or a farm or something. I don't think anybody's ever really been to you don't allow
No.
people where you live, but
My fortress of solitude. I
yeah.
have a horse, I have chickens, I have 11 dogs, 10 and a half. One's a coy dog, so I count her as half a dog. My kids are grown, mostly. My youngest is 16 now.
Yeah.
So I'm breathing easier. I'm free a little bit. So I'm able to put all of my efforts into writing.
Why did you branch out, go back to what I would think are your roots for this book?
Why did I come back?
Yeah.
So romance it's going exceedingly well. I hit USA Today in 2019. Thank you. I love the genre. I love the work that I'm doing. I have a fantastic readership. But Book Auteur reached out to me, and they asked me if I would consider developing a series for them. And Book Auteur was on the very short list of traditional publishers that I would consider. I do write, my romance is indie. I do it all on my own. I do my covers. I do everything on my own. And I pretty much figured that was going to be the way of it, that I was just going to be an indie author, and that was it. But when Book Auteur reached out and they asked me if I wanted to develop a series, I couldn't say no, because they were on a very short list of publishers that I wanted to work with. Because they are a smaller publisher, they're more of a boutique, but they are a part of Hachette, and there are opportunities to grow and, to make the jump to Grand Central if my sales are good. So I said yes, and that was at the end of 2019. And then 2020 happened, and that was horrible.
I think we met you. Was your first book for Midnight? Was it Midnight Ink? Now
Yes. Yeah.
it was carved in darkness, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Long time ago.
Was that your first
Did an
book?
event together at Poison Pen.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was awesome.
That was the first one.
I
It was my
couldn't
first
get
book.
Megan's fans because I had nobody there, and Megan had all of her fans there, and I just slid in, grabbed a few sales here and there.
So Megan, have you found it, in a way, a relief? It's a huge amount of work to not only write the book, but do the production and achieve the values and do the marketing. Have you found it, I don't want to say restful, because that's not the right word, maybe a relief to have somebody taking over, the parts that are not actively writing, but producing and selling your book?
Yeah. It's nice to be able to take a step back and just write the book, but at the same time, I enjoy the production aspect of it. I love making my own covers. I make covers for other authors. I'm a cover designer now. So I enjoy the production part of it. And I'm not going to lie, I enjoy the element of controlling my own career.
That's it.
So,
The control. I knew that was a main thrust for you.
Yeah. So it's been, I'm relearning how to let go. I'm relearning how to just, let other people handle things. And sometimes that's hard for me.
Yeah.
But yes, I mean, if I could get to a point where, I'll never be at the point where I'm just writing 1 to 2 books a year. That's just never going to happen for me. I'm never going to stop writing romance. I'm never going to, if this thing with Book Auteur works out, then I'll keep writing the 2 books a year for them too. I have 6 books slated for next year. So
That's
how
it.
many books are you writing, Matt?
For which year?
Next year.
I just turned in a book. How about that?
Look at you.
Yeah.
You're amazing.
Is it a Rick
It's hard
book or
not to feel
someone else?
somewhat intimidated when you listen to that. You know,
Yeah,
but
it's a Rick
everybody
book,
writes
yeah.
at their own pace and in their own way. You know, I don't think that you know, it's an apples and oranges things always, I think, when you talk about authors. And some people write really fast and easily, and other people really have to struggle some.
For me, I liked only having to write one book a year. That was, and I struggled to do that. I struggled to write one book a year. I struggled to make my deadlines with one book a year for Midnight Ink. And then when I started writing the romance, my success depended solely on me and how, you know, and so it just, I had to, you know, it was put up or shut up time. I had to do it, you know, because my success belonged to me and me alone. I wasn't working for anybody else. So that was very important to me to do that. Now, you know, I don't, writing one book a year would feel like a dream. I don't even know what I would do with that. I don't know what I would do with 2 books a year. I would go on vacation a lot, I think.
I think your Wi-Fi out at the compound is kind of going in and out.
Is it going out?
A little bit. I mean, the sound is great, but you
Okay.
freeze sometimes.
Am I freezing?
Yeah, it
Okay,
doesn't
I'll
matter.
stand, I'll sit still.
Don't let it bother you. It happens all the time. Everybody has sort of wobbly Wi-Fi, whatever it is. So Matt, you've been publishing with a good but smaller publisher all this time called Ocean View, you know, and I'm assuming you're happy with them or you're still there. Have you flirted around with the idea of writing independently yourself?
No, I don't think I could write 5 books a year, or 3 or 2. No, I have a good relationship with Ocean View. They've been great to me. They do a lot of things very well. They're smaller, clearly. We've talked about things that I want to do, and they're that may you know, I may go somewhere else. But to do that, I would have to come up with something new. And I'm under contract right now. So I can't imagine not writing Rick Cahill. I've been writing him, like I said, for 20 years. So I should have 100 books out, but I only have 8, and 9 will be out next year. Yeah, I have aspirations to do other things, and that will come fairly soon. But right now, I'm still with Rick.
Well, you've won 1 Anthony Award and 2 Seamus Awards, and you've been nominated for, I don't even remember how many Left Coast Crime Awards. So obviously you've got a serious fan base, but critics also like your work. That must be very important to you.
Yeah, a little money, you got to have something. Yeah, and I did have one left. Yeah, one last year. Yeah, I think I got lucky with yesterday's Echo, where by winning the Anthony for best first, it kind of raised my profile a little bit, where, you know, probably otherwise I wouldn't have. I mean, it certainly doesn't raise your profile like being nominated for an Edgar or anything like that, but I think it raised me a little bit, where so when award seasons come around, people are at least aware of you. So that was a big boost, and it was lucky the way it happened. But yeah, I mean, I'm happy with the work I put out. You know, some of us just don't rush off books and send them in 4 or 5 years. We take our time. We like a good stew, you boil it down, you really get that flavor going. So that's the
Perfect your craft.
that
Got it.
no, I actually am a big fan of Maegan's. I haven't read her romance, but big fan of her very dark.
Please don't do that.
Oh, maybe I will now.
No.
Maybe you could have like a
you
little
know,
cross
you
pollination
obviously,
between your 2 series. That would be fun. Little subtle guest cameos in each other's books. That would be cool.
There's a lot of pollination that goes on in romance.
That's for sure.
well,
Barbara, I'm sorry.
Especially
you were
hot
starting to say?
romance.
no, romance is a really big market. We've been surprised that COVID has changed, and the influx of people into Scottsdale has changed the nature of what we sell dramatically. I do all the ordering, and every week when I look at the restock reports of the books we sold the last week, there are more and more children's books, there are more and more self-help books, there's more and more nonfiction, but there's a very large romance component. And we have another staff member called John, who is a notable romance critic for Booklist. And, he has quite a reputation in the romance community. So I find it interesting that the store has expanded, moved in different directions, embraced more. Fiction is still what we primarily sell, as compared to nonfiction. But I love the way that it has grown. And I like the fact that people will come in and they'll buy one from romance and one from mystery, or sometimes, it's like all sci-fi. I mean, some people are dedicated to just one genre and that's all they want to read. But I do find there's a lot of cross-pollination. Patrick, you're not on the floor as much as you used to be, but do you have that sense too, that people are reading more broadly?
Yeah, I do. I think that the genre kind of the crime genre just in that alone has become so much richer, and there's so much more going on, and it's not as limited as it might have once been. And actually, you know what? This is great. There are a number of questions that are coming in on YouTube, which is awesome. We started streaming simultaneously on Facebook and YouTube, and I'm really happy with thanks everybody for watching on both platforms. Let's see. Rachel asks, Maegan, how many books are planned in your Georgia Fell series?
Actually, I just had a talk with my editor this morning. I have 5 planned. We'll see where it goes from there. But the way I structured Georgia, I structured the island, the way the last book ends, I could potentially write, I'm not gonna say that I can go like full on Lee Child and write like 20 of these things, but I could probably do 8 or 9. I could get them done by next year.
If you have 5 planned, that's just a year for you. So
yeah, it is.
I guess you're not thinking too far out.
No, I'm just thinking, short term.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But one of the good designs of Maegan's series is, though, it's a small town in a fairly remote place, but we've already established that there's a fairly large influx of people. So it isn't going to turn into Cabot's Cove,
No.
Which I think is death for a small town mystery. If you just have too small a cast and you have to have a murder. Of course, I don't think all mysteries have to have murders. So that's another whole question. But there are other crimes that, that one can explore. But I do think you set up your series very well for either short or long term, depending on how it works for you.
Thank you.
Here's a special question for you, Maegan. Let's see here.
Oh boy.
Yeah, you're gonna like this. It says, do you think that Georgia will ever get a working dog to sniff out seashells being smuggled off the island by tourists?
That is my husband. I bet money that's my husband. Maybe. It's either my husband or my daughter. There's a whole story behind that question.
Suspected so, yeah.
One we don't have time for. I would love Georgia to get a dog. I can give one of mine. I have 11, 10 and a half. So I would love Georgia to get a dog, a companion. So yes, possibly, maybe.
Not ruling it out. That's good. Let's see, Casey.
Nope. Never rule anything out.
No. Casey asks, I'd like to know from Matt and Maegan, what is your favorite among the books that you've written so far? Do you have a favorite?
Last Redemption, of course. Guys, we've got 30 of them in the store. Actually, I think it's 36. Yeah, I have a soft spot for Blood Truth, which was the 4th book I wrote, which would have been the 4th month of the year for Maegan. But it's kind of a father-son story, and my father had just passed away. I planned to write it before that, but my father, even though he was 91, he suddenly passed away. And so it made it that much more meaningful to me and to Rick, because it was a father-son story. But I've had a lot of people honestly tell me that have read Last Redemption, it's their favorite. I don't like it. And I don't know how Maegan is, but when I'm writing a book, I hate them. I think they're terrible and I hate them. And then
Mhm.
when I edit them and I revise them, I think they're pretty good. And then by the time they come out, I think they're genius. And I think what I'm writing is crap now. But no, I like Last Redemption quite a bit. It's got it's a whole. I'm really challenging myself and risking a lot by potentially giving Rick this disease. So, kind of like, well, you stuck yourself in a corner. What are you going to do next?
What about you, Megan? Do you have a favorite?
I love Georgia. I love this series. I'm really excited about where it's going, but I think my favorite book, thriller-wise, that I've written would be Blood of Saints, which was my last Sabrina Vaughn book.
Good book.
I loved being able to close that arc for Sabrina and giving her closure and giving her peace and allowing her to just come into her own and not be the person that she was meant to be, because that was never going to happen, but be a better version of herself. And that was really really cathartic for me, being able to do that for her, because I put that woman through hell. And just being able to reward her for all of that was rewarding for me.
Let's see. Oh, this is interesting. Ronnie Olson, our friend.
Hi, Ronnie.
Yeah, she's cool. She says the Boston researcher who examined the brain of former football star Aaron Hernandez says it showed the most damage her team had seen in an athlete so young.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay, Aaliyah, I think that's the way she says it.
Mhm.
This is a writing question for both of them. What is your writing style? Are you a plotter or you're a seat of the pantser? I'm a pantser, and I really, really wish I was a plotter. I make plots, I use worksheets, I plan it all out, and I probably get about the first chapter in, and then it all goes to hell. And stuff starts happening, and nobody will listen to me, and nobody will do what I tell them to do, and it's controlled chaos from there on out. But it works for me. So when I try to plot and I try to control, and for somebody who is a self-proclaimed control freak, the fact that my writing process is so chaotic is insane. But when I try to control where the story goes, that's when I slow down and I stop writing, and I have to remind myself to open up and just let it happen. So when I just open up and let it happen, that's when good things come to me. So, but man, if I were a plotter, my life would be so much easier. Sounds like you're getting the work done, though.
I'm not sure it would be, because you'd be spending too much time trying to figure it out, and then you still have to write it. I'm a pantser too. I think I tried to outline a draft of the first book. I mean, I used to have skeletal outlines where I'd have an inciting incident, and I'd had the ending fairly well nailed down, and then maybe a couple plot points depending. And the more I've written, the more organic. I like chaotic. It's much better. Organic makes you sound like you know what you're doing, though. But yeah, it's very chaotic, it's messy. Much more so as I've gone on, but my first drafts are better. My first drafts are basically my outline, but they're very long. And there's a lot of revising. I will cut 30,000 plus words probably by the time, and add some by the time I'm done. But over the last 3 books, An Afternoon for Megan, I've tried to be, I've actually thought, well, you sort of have to figure things out. I don't know why I've thought that, because I've had a fair amount of success doing it this other chaotic way. And all it does is stall me. It stalls me for a month. And then I just say, no. I have the first thing that I think about is the major subplot for Rick. What's going on in his life that's giving him trouble, stress? And then what case can he take that may exacerbate that? Then sometimes they may overlap and sometimes no. So I just put him in a situation and just go. And then eventually he tells me where to go. But all this thought ahead of time, I don't like to think when I write. And some critics would probably agree with that. But
the subplot with Maura and her son and the restraining order and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Did you have to kind of brush up on some of the details of what exactly a restraining order is, and violations, and pretty interesting material?
Yeah, I went to high school with a lawyer, and I gave him credit, Bob Buckley, in the acknowledgments, and he gave me a good background on restraining orders. Yeah, because what I tend to do sometimes on research is I write the book and I think I know what I'm doing, and then I go back and ask questions, and then when you get it wrong, you gotta, oh well, I better fix this. Sometimes you're right though, but I think as I was writing it, I asked Bob about that, and yeah, I mean this. We've been in the industry for a while, so this is somewhat outside the industry, but there's a lot of people that write mysteries that have done everything. I get a lot of help from David Putnam on cop procedural stuff, but yeah, for that one I had to go outside. I didn't know any lawyers closely that could help me with that.
Right. Well, and your books are really classic California novels, and so much. You show us so much about what's going on in San Diego and around there. I don't know if I really have a question, but how have you seen San Diego change a lot in the last 20 years? Has it gone through this massive change, or what can you say about that?
It's certainly changed. It's become more populated. We still have, Phoenix is bigger. I think Phoenix is 7 and San Diego's 8 in terms of, although you guys are in Scottsdale, in terms of size. San Diego Airport still has 1 runway for the 8th largest city in the. San Diego is very parochial in some ways. They don't like change. The government doesn't like change, although they do like a lot of change in their pocket because there's been a lot of scandals. It was called at one point Enron by the Sea years ago, and there's always some sort of corruption going on. But it's gotten bigger. It's gotten more spread out. The traffic's gotten worse. Ironically, or maybe not ironically, some of the worst traffic's while I'll do an event up in LA or Orange County or something, and the worst part of the drive will be just above Oceanside down to Del Mar. I've been in LA. I was driving in LA, and that traffic's worse, probably because the highway narrows. But yeah, it's growing. It's become the politics have shifted quite a bit from when. It used to be a military town. It still is. I mean, that's the thing you don't really think about that much. Is it really is a huge military town in terms of the firepower we have in our in the Navy. But it's changed that way. Yeah, I mean, I have lived here a lot, but I'm not that observant.
Well, such an interesting mix of different little communities. Like you've got the whole vibe of Ocean Beach, and then you've got that just 40 miles away and inland, it's very different. El Cajon, all these different other communities that all have interesting histories.
I lived in Ocean Beach for I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years. But that was interesting. Used to watch the drug deals go down in the front of the street, the sidewalk in front of my house.
I love OB. That's
ones I wasn't involved in too. I'll say that.
Let's see. Okay, Leah has another question for Maegan, and it is, how much mental gymnastics does it take to flip the switch between your romances and your thrillers?
Good question.
A lot. I try not to write them at the same time. Right now I'm finishing up another romantic suspense that's not related to Georgia. I can do Georgia and I can do this other romantic suspense at the same time because they're about the same speed. I tend to write a block of romance, and then I'll write a block of thriller, and then, I'll do it like that. If I am under a deadline crunch and I really need to finish, this summer I was writing romance and I was writing, finishing up Georgia at the same time. I generally do it by day. I'll focus a day on romance, and then I'll focus a day on the thriller. And my process allows me to kind of transition out. Matt said that, his first drafts are usually just a very detailed outline. When I finish writing a book, that's the final draft. I don't the final draft of Georgia was the final draft I handed into my editor. What I do is I sit down in front of my computer, I read what I wrote the day before, and I know it's a big time suck and everybody says you shouldn't do it, but I do it. I sit down, I read what I wrote the day before to get myself into the mindset of, and then I do edits as I'm writing, or as I'm reading, I'm editing. And then I cycle through and then I write my word count for the day. So being able to do that allows me to shift gears and get back into the groove of the genre that I'm focused on that day.
Do you both work with writers groups at all? Did you start out doing that, or are you involved in those kind of things?
There's no way Maegan could, not with that much. Yeah, I've been a writers group all along, various writer groups. Generally what happens is about the first 100 pages will be grouped, and then we don't go every week throughout the year. So those are important pages, so that'll help me get the vibe I want, and then the rest I churn out alone. Not in a weekend like Maegan, but over a few months.
I actually I rewrote Sabrina, the first book, Carved in Darkness. I rewrote her in writing classes that I was taking at Phoenix College.
That's right.
And that was a group setting. It was all online. We critiqued each other's work. Les Edgerton was my instructor. He critiqued our work. And that was very, very helpful, very informative, invaluable experience. I also wrote book 2 in one of his writing groups before I, kind of started writing 75,000 books a year and nobody could keep up with me, especially Matt.
I'm just wondering how many books you feel like you've lost by this hour we've been spent talking. That's at least 3/4 of a book. Sorry.
Yeah, at least.
Hurt the process.
That's okay. I forgive you.
Let's see. Fred has a classic question, which is just, do you have any favorite authors that you like to read?
I love Matt Coyle. See back here, I'm a Stephen King fan. Dean Koontz. I have a David Baldacci section. Romantic suspense. I like Iris Johansson. I have a Dennis Lehane section. I've been splitting up here, so I'm all over the place as far as authors go. I have a romance section
Coyle.
over
I've never
here
heard
that
of
you
this
guys
other
can't
guy.
see.
Me neither.
I know. Matt Coyle's he's their gold standard.
Stephen King has book envy. Listening to you, how many books you put out a year?
Never thought that would happen.
I doubt that seriously.
I've got for contemporary. I'm a big Connolly fan. Jeff Parker, T. Jefferson Parker. I actually have his arc for his book that's gotten rave reviews. I'm in the middle of judging something right now, so I can't read for my own pleasure of late. But we just lost Maegan. But I like Jeff Parker, Robert Crace. I'm a big Maegan Abbott fan, but I've said many times I don't. After I read Maegan Abbott, and then I start writing, I feel like a cowboy in the Westerns where they just sign their name with an X because the writing is just so.
She's so good.
So deep and that you got to realize you got to stick to what you can do. But I can't wait to start reading for pleasure again. That's all I can say this year.
Was Chandler? I'm assuming Chandler was a big influence on some level, and maybe Ross MacDonald, some of those classic California writers. Right.
I read Chandler only wrote 7 novels. I read Chandler when I was a teenager. I read MacDonald. I'm not sure if I read all his books because he was much more prolific than Chandler. But yeah, I really loved MacDonald, who lived in Santa Barbara when I was going to college up there. And I may have told you this last year, Patrick, but he was supposed to come. I had a detective writing class, or I think it was detective writing, and he was going to come, give us a guest lecture or talk, and he couldn't make it. So that's kind of one of the big holes in my life. That would have been a great opportunity. But I've read crime all my life. That's what I read for fun too. And I know a lot of people can't read the genre they write while they're writing it, but I don't have a problem with that. I don't think, we're all stealing from everybody else. I mean, it's all osmosis, I think. I mean, Chandler and McDonald are huge influences. Everybody I've read's an influence, but it took me 10 years to get published. So I was developing my own voice with all the rejections and all the revisions I was doing. So I don't worry about that, but I love the genre. It's, look at your store. It's Poison Pen. It's filled with mystery and some sci-fi apparently. And
all kinds of stuff.
All kinds of stuff. It started as a mystery bookstore, but it hasn't been one. I spent 5 years branding it as a mystery store and 25 unbranding it because it isn't a mystery bookstore anymore and hasn't been for a long time. But it is primarily a fiction bookstore.
Right.
And, still an area of expertise, though. I mean, we do have.
Well, yeah, it is. And I mean, I actually am a romance and biography reader, but I love mystery. And my mother was a serious mystery fan, so I read all the classics when I was very young, and it sticks with me because I'm fortunate that I have a really good memory, which so far old age is not totally eroded, but Patrick saves me over the little stuff. I can remember the big things, can't I, Patrick? Because the little stuff, like
I'm
the
starting
titles.
to lose it too. I have a hard time with some of that stuff too.
I know it is hard. Well, anyway, it's been a real pleasure to talk to you, Matt. And I think Megan's having trouble connecting. So this would be a good time to say thank you very much. Thank you for signing books for us. Megan, thank you very much for joining us this evening. I really like the start of this series, so I will look forward to more.
Yeah, Megan, you are muted. So if you can unmute yourself, but there she goes. Oh, well. Right. Exeunt. Matt, just real quick, Matt, I know that you had before in a previous life, you sold or you were a dealer in sports memorabilia. Am I remembering that correctly?
Well, it's a legitimate mistake. No, sports licensing, which is different than memorabilia.
Okay.
So we would say if the Diamondbacks ever won a World Series again, we would produce their balls, and we had the license to. I don't work for anybody anymore, but or this year the Cardinals could actually win the Super Bowl.
Actually could, and the Suns are doing brilliantly.
Right. Well, yeah, the Suns had a good year for the Suns. So we would produce balls that in hot market where it would say championship, and we also everyday balls just with the logo. Right. I did that for 16 years.
Good for you. Well, that certainly would be excellent training for what you're writing about. I am hearing dogs screaming at me. Yep. So if you all want to stay on and chat, I'm going to have to exit before they scramble down the door. I only have 3, Megan, compared to your 10 and a half. But then we've all decided that all of us are pikers compared to Megan, right?
All the way.
Yeah. We really are. So it's a goal for us. Patrick, you're going to have to up your dog game too.
I got my cat game going, but not the dog game.
That's right. Anyway, thank you very much. I'm going to say goodnight, and you all carry on if you would like to. Have a very happy holiday.
Thanks, Barbara. Thanks for sitting in.
Good night, Barbara. Thank you.
Bye. Yeah, Megan, you're still sideways on us.
Am I still sideways? You guys were sideways on me.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
Flip your computer around.
I don't know how I make that happen. I don't know how to.
Oh, well. There she goes. Well. I don't know. It's kind of nice, actually. Maybe we should follow suit, Matt, and just embrace the sideways thing ourselves.
Absolutely. Makes you productive.
Well, guys, thanks so much. It's been a real fun time talking with both of you, as always. And here are the new books right here, everybody. So I hope you both have a really happy holiday season.
Thank you, Patrick. It's always fun to talk to you. I enjoy it when you host. I do.
Me too.
Thanks so much.
It was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me, Megan. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Okay. Thank you, Matt. Bye, Patrick.
Good night. Good night, everybody.
Guys.
Thanks, guys.